Electricast.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second LTE internet plan with smartphone plan savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up, and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host, Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
Today, we're talking a milestone movie, the long-anticipated Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
The Entity does nothing in this movie. We're trying to keep things as analog as possible. The Sevastopol is at the bottom of the ocean, where even the Entity can't find it. He's got analog planes on standby, 2 of them. I brought an extra one just in case, and the Entity can't get to it. And the only time we get any Entity is when we're force-fed it at the very top, in the opening, and then when he gets into the Entity coffin and has a dialogue. And why the Entity, knowing that its best chance for success was to completely eradicate Ethan Hunt, was entirely beyond me. It had Gabriel. It sidelined Gabriel. Did it need Ethan Hunt to get it into the Doomsday Vault? Is that the whole reason that it let Ethan live when it had him clamped down and could have asphyxiated him?
Ethan did seem to bank on the fact that he was necessary to the Entity's plans.
So 2 years ago, we talked about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, at the time, Part 1. Do you remember how that movie and that discussion connects and factors into this discussion? Why am I pissed off about The Final Reckoning?
Because there wasn't any additional storyline or closure for the Ilsa Faust character.
No, it was because there was no way, and I was never going to forgive Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie, or the Mission Impossible franchise for unceremoniously killing Ilsa Faust.
They never explained it?
No, it didn't happen. It was terrible. It was
She was
so
stabbed in the heart.
So Kelly Ray pointed out that Paris, who I maintained was also stabbed and still had the strength, the wherewithal to pull them out of the train as it was collapsing into the river, and also to survive that and to join the team and be all healed up just 2 months later and flipping and kicking people and taking their guns and stuff. I thought, oh, that's a clear indication. And the fact that Ilsa Faust, he said, you're dead, stay dead at the beginning when she played dead and then tried to kick his ass in the desert. I thought for sure this is a setup and she'll come roaring back in The Final Reckoning. And I thought it was so poorly handled. I thought there is no way that agent is actually dead. You know, who's Julia?
Ethan's ex-wife?
From when? Mission Impossible 3. So what is the name of Ethan's dead wife when they retconned Gabriel in?
Not Julia?
I don't even know if it was a wife. It wasn't Julia. What was that lady's name that died and Gabriel was present?
I have no idea. I didn't realize that he was retconned. I always thought he was Moriarty'd.
Both Julia and unnamed wife or partner of Ethan Hunt got more screen time than Ilsa Faust in The Final Reckoning.
It's because Rebecca Ferguson was victim to the Jeremy Renner syndrome. Like, you can't outshine Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible franchise.
And yet, we love Benji, right? Don't we love Benji?
I love Benji.
Haley Atwell as Grace gets a very prominent role. And the only distinction between her and the eminently capable Ilsa Faust is that she is a pickpocket and she's very fast. And I did appreciate how well they wove that in. Her dexterity, her deftness in picking pockets, although this one was a little bit of a cheat. When we see her, when she's introduced, she brushes between the two dudes and takes their radios and their guns. The great part about Dead Reckoning was that we saw all the picks and puts of the pocket, the motions she went through. In this one, we missed that completely because it simply wasn't possible. A little bit of a cheat or a little bit of corner cutting. And I feel like maybe they cornered the cut. They cut the corner on Ilsa Faust. I was waiting the entire movie for her to show up. He did all the stuff that he was supposed to do. This movie did all the stuff it was supposed to do, except for the fundamental component of Ilsa Faust, whose death I will be bemoaning and bitching about for the entirety of this discussion. What do you got? Go.
What was going on with Luther? Did we miss an entire scene? I rewatched every single Mission Impossible movie. And I couldn't have missed it. So I can only assume that a scene was cut out of The Final Reckoning. What was happening with Luther? Was he sick? Was he terminally ill?
So he said in Dead Reckoning, this is where I leave you. He was going to go on his own and figure out how to beat the entity, but he needed to go off grid in an enemy of the state Gene Hackman style cage where the entity couldn't get to him. But it was retconned for us to believe that not only was he ill, presumably with cancer, but he was old enough to justify his untimely demise. Don't worry about old Luther, is what he said, being only 3 years older than Tom Cruise is, but whatever. And so we needed to be able to kill Luther to motivate Ethan without the entire world being outraged by the death of an agent who we've come to love over several movies. And let me tell you, while I don't think it was necessary for Luther to die, I do appreciate the sacrifice to give us real stakes, that it wasn't that you have to trust me one last time or whatever. What makes Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning the Final Reckoning? I guess we needed to have actual stakes. If you're going to kill a long-standing agent, have that person serve an essential purpose. It's a noble sacrifice for Ethan, for the team, for the people that they've never met. Yes, it happened off screen, but it does it in a way that we have no doubt that Luther is actually dead. Did you think Luther was going to pop out at the end?
Like show up in the crowd in Trafalgar Square or wherever
Right?
they were in London? I mean, I have questions about that too, but no, it was definitive and decisive that Luther was died. That he not only that he died, but he died honorably and in sacrifice to the people. Right? It was either the tunnels blow up or the entire city blows up. And
a glass ashtray is what London would become. That is how you kill a long-standing agent, even if it's a rogue MI6 one.
Not a long-standing agent, the longest-standing agent. You said Luther is the only character, along with Tom Cruise, that has been in every single movie. That's the one that we decide we're going to kill? I mean, I guess they did him right, and it sure looked like they were going to kill Simon Pegg too, and I was like, they can't. They couldn't.
And yet you knew he was going to show up at the end.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of the ending, why couldn't they come together and have a beer like they did with Jeremy Renner in 4 and talk about the old times? Like, why did they just give each other these longing looks across the square and then all disperse? Can they not, like Luther said, retire together?
They could have, and that would have been a real throwback to Ghost Protocol, where they did sit down and have a beer. And they look up, and there's frickin' Julia, who appears in Ghost Protocol. And so there's Paris and Benji and Grace, and then they all look off to the side. And here comes Ilsa. I don't care if she was there for any of the other stuff. They all could have smiled knowingly at him.
They should have walked off into the sunset.
They turn and walk away, and Ethan's like, oh, I'm on my own. And he turns, and there's freaking Ilsa. And they could have walked off in anonymity, and we would have been like, okay, but everybody would have been happy to see freaking Ilsa.
Because that's all she wanted, right? Come away with me.
Yes. find a way to get out to stay out. But no. Where did this not meeting, walk off into the crowd thing take place?
London.
Where's Ilsa Faust from? Started and ended in London. I thought she was in the hyperbaric AI coffin. I thought they were keeping her like she was a sleeper agent and they were going to activate her to kick ass. And they were
Like
keeping
a
her
machine? Like Terminator style?
Yeah, she was healing in the healing pod after her knife attack. I thought she was killing everybody in the off-screen beatdown. That's horrifying Grace. That was actually Ethan killing all those dudes.
Yeah, where we're just on her face. That was funny.
Why did Gabriel run when Ethan started kicking everyone's ass with the defibrillator? Gabriel is one of the most capable villains, and I thought he was a great villain. People don't seem to share that reaction, that sentiment.
He was a little like rubby handy, like laughy caricature villain.
He was ruthless and very adept, and he was a fighty type dude on top of the freaking train. Why did he run away when he saw he would have been the best at subduing Ethan of all those nameless, faceless henchmen?
Other than the fact that he was above it, I mean, he's the evil mastermind. He doesn't have to do the grunt work.
Okay.
So Ilsa Faust was lurking around every corner, and you're dissatisfied because these filmmakers were not above fan service, so why couldn't they have done you this simple service?
You're telling me that when they're in the Doomsday Vault or the mines outside the Doomsday Vault and people start killing Gabriel's men or Kittredge's men, you didn't think that was Faust? They're talking down there. Kittredge appears.
No, because early in the movie, when they're doing all of the exposition and all of the recap, they show her dying on the bridge.
Yes.
Ethan is holding her as she dies on the bridge.
No, she was dead. Already dead with her eyes open.
Right, and so Ethan would know whether or not she's dead.
Yes, he would, unless he told everyone she's dead and got her out, got her away, so that Kittredge wouldn't be able to interrupt her plans to show up at an inopportune moment when he's got Gabriel. Gabriel actually kind of had him dead to rights, but still, you show up just like she did once he had Solomon Lane in possession in whatever that one was. I think that was Rogue Nation.
It took me so long to realize that was the same guy. Because he's all bearded and weathered.
She could have been bearded and weathered. So you remember in Dead Reckoning when Ethan is the creepiest ever looking dude and he walks in, which they retconned this to be Kittredge's assistant? That's what Warlock said.
Yeah, that was a retcon?
Well, I don't know. But we're like, who's that dude? Because I thought that dude was the personified entity, right?
Yes.
And then so in this one, did you not see when they went into the presidential bunker, the look that the guard gave Ethan? The wide-eyed guard, the really tall black guy? Did you not see that look that he gave him? He walks in and he's escorted by 2 military officers, the same people who walked him out when she said, lock him up. And instead, they took him outside and gave him the cruciform key and put him on the helicopter. And she's like, good luck. The other guy behind him, it might have even been the same dude that Nick Offerman asked for his service weapon when he went in to defend the president or whatever. That dude gives Ethan this like super wide-eyed telling look. And I was like, that dude's the entity. That dude's the entity. And then I thought, that dude's Ilsa. That's Ilsa Faust.
Oh my God.
Dude,
She's going to rip off the mask.
If Grace in Dead Reckoning can put on a mask and play Alana, the White Widow, and fool Kittredge when their bodies don't match, that's like some face-off John Travolta, Nick Cage changing. If she could pull that off, then Ilsa could be a tall black guy.
I think I don't remember this look, and I think it's because during that particular sequence, there was a fly walking around on the IMAX projector lens. And we were like, what is happening? It was seriously scooting around for like 15 minutes. It would come and go.
Wow.
And then it would just come back. And I was so distracted by this fly and looking around at everyone else in the audience. Like, does no one else see that there's a fly on the projector lens? I even took a picture of it. in a movie that was that was pretty dense. So I think I missed that particular moment. Here, I'm going to send you the picture.
Oh, man.
It was. Do you think that that's refund worthy, or would that just be?
Yes.
Or am I just being annoying?
That's justified because that suggests that the projectionist is not watching the movie. I've complained when it's been framed poorly, where the subtitles weren't legible at the bottom, and the picture and sound quality is the projectionist's responsibility, needs to be observed and checked at all time instead of playing Candy Crush or whatever junk while the movie is projecting for people paying good money. Absolutely.
All right, well, look at the photo and see if you can see where the fly is.
Yep, I see it, and I know exactly what scene that is. That's kind of a critical scene.
And that's just one of many where the thing was just scooting around.
You know who wasn't scooting around? Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, Ilsa Faust.
Stop. You should have launched this campaign, waged this campaign. How many years ago did the last one come out? Like 3 years ago?
But
whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
I mean, there were so many people that were in this movie that could have been Ilsa Faust that were totally wasted. Hannah Waddingham is famous for something or other, and she was the rear admiral that the president gave the May 22nd, 1996 note. We both lost someone important, and this is why you should I'm convincing you to take Ethan to meet your periscope depth submarine buddy, who may or may not take him to exactly that spot, even though it's in Russian waters or whatever, or being patrolled by Russian Belgorod submarines. Totally wasted character.
So let's talk about the Sevastopol. Suspenseful or not?
Well, which part? The whole idea?
The action sequence.
Oh, my goodness.
The set piece of the Sevastopol.
So Mission Impossible, as we talked about, is all about the stunts. And I was like, the underwater stunts don't play great on camera. I mean, they've done diving before. They've done diving where he frickin' dies before. But then they're like, if we're going to do it again, let's do it in a Christopher Nolan, James Cameron style spin cycle with torpedoes. And I was like, okay, he's going to be diving. Not going to be a lot of quick moments. There's going to be dramatic bubbles or whatever. But I was pretty impressed. Some of that stuff has to be CG, so it can't be all practical Tom Cruise. I don't know why the dude didn't warn him, hey, when we take that turn at 10 knots and you jump out of a moving submarine, you might get caught in the Belgorod and the propellers or whatever.
You might try and avoid those.
Right? Bounce off that thing the entire length of the hull. But whatever. So that was CG for a lot of it. But when he's in there and he's tumbling around and swimming, I found it really suspenseful. It was disorienting, but not unpleasantly so when they were spinning. It's a great effect when the water is obviously settled by gravity on the lowest point, but it's on the side or the top of the screen because the way the camera is positioned. They did it with Solomon Lane. Remember we talked about that horrifying stunt where he's in a straitjacket and dips his head under the water?
Yeah, takes a giant breath before he goes underwater in the van in the straitjacket.
And so this was, I think it was a very effective stunt for what I thought was going to be a typical diving stunt, because as with any good sequel, they totally ratcheted up the stunts. I thought the motorcycle jump, was a little bit boring. Oh, Tom Cruise is actually jumping off of that ramp, but he's doing it like a dummy, like Deliverance style, and he's wearing a parachute, and we've seen him parachute jump before. Not just out of the thing, but we saw him do the halo jump when he was chasing Henry Cavill through the lightning. So they've done him hanging off the side of a plane before, but how about we strap him to a barnstormer and we go flipping around? How many flips did Gabriel do in the biplane?
Can those biplanes actually fly upside down like Snoopy style?
You can spin, obviously, but structurally they're meant to be, the weight down. So I don't think they can fly inverted for a sustained amount of time, but they are trick planes. So we've had him parachute multiple times before, several times. Let's set these ones on fire. That he actually holds a Guinness World Record for the most flaming parachute jumps. And why? Because Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise, because he has hundreds of millions of dollars of Paramount's money where he can go up again and again and jump out with a flaming parachute.
Because no matter what, you're going to end up flying with your tail on fire, right? What did she say?
Yep. That was Top Gun. You're talking about Penny. No matter what, you're going to be up going Mach 2 with your tail on fire.
Exactly. And to me, this is all one world. Ethan Hunt and Pete Maverick Mitchell are essentially the same character. This is Tom Cruise's final reckoning, although I think we'll see him again. But they summed up almost his entire career with this film.
They did. A lot of the different stunt components, a lot of that career, of course, in action being Mission Impossible. It wasn't just because Warlock and Coyote were there.
Well, and the aircraft carrier and the fighter jets and the plane sequences and the parachute jumps. A
career retrospective, not just through the flashbacks of the different Mission Impossible films, but Top Gun and a whole bunch of these other things, even Eyes Wide Shut. Did you get the Eyes Wide Shut connection in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning?
Searching the catalog, no.
Where Ethan is entirely sexless. He's butt naked for most of this movie. He's knife fighting. He's diving in little shorts. No sexy time.
Boxer briefs.
See, this is why I think that Grace is going to come back, even if it's in a frickin' vision. Not Grace. Ilsa. She's going to come through the ice and she's going to give him a smooch underwater that's going to bring him back to life, Emily Blunt, Edge of Tomorrow style. Whoa, big spoiler. She's going to show up in a dream sequence, but no, he's in the hyperbaric chamber with Grace. There's a couple of instances of face touching, but there's no macking. And I thought it was because that's why he wasn't macking with Julia, because we're clearing Julia out of the story so we can let Ethan have his little Ilsa Faust romance. Nope. He's suspiciously not romantic at all with Grace, and I thought that was because Ilsa was coming back any time now. Didn't she give him mouth to mouth coming out of the ice?
She gives him conspicuous boob shot mouth to mouth.
I hope Ilsa's not watching next to the Inuit lady or in the little parka or whatever, and then she never showed up.
And I feel like there's something missing. If you look at the evolution of the Ethan Hunt character, who was basically a cocky Top Gun type, he's very subdued and he seemed tired. Tom Cruise seemed tired in The Final Reckoning.
Well, he went through a lot of stuff. I'd be tired too before doing all that stuff. So I think they made the stakes much more about the end of the world, which they've done many times before.
Countless times.
And so how do you do it? This time it's serious and less personal. This time it's more serious. And as a result, people responded less favorably.
It was a little too serious. It was a little bit too close to home. No one wants to think seriously about nuclear annihilation. And it's not a new concept that the entire population of the world is reliant on Ethan Hunt. It felt very reminiscent of, what's the one before Dead Reckoning, where Julia and Wes Bentley are at the medical camp?
Maybe the best reviewed, which is Fallout.
It felt like a rehash of Fallout, but because it was less personal and because the stakes were higher, which is what I think the filmmakers were going for, it just felt like kind of a bummer. And it felt like Ethan Hunt didn't have a place to go. You know, it was very rewarding that they did revisit so much from the previous episodes, having reviewed them all, and also, you know, to the benefit of those who hadn't, right? They had the context. But did you notice that 2 was conspicuously missing from the entire storyline? Like, they kind of pretend that 2 doesn't exist.
So Tom Cruise got John Woo because John Woo was a big thing, but it was so John Woo and not Mission Impossible that people were expecting. In my humble opinion, a diversion from the original Mission Impossible in the way that Back to the Future 2 did for me. It simply wasn't the same kind of movie. Stylistically, it's unique, but yeah, it's the Tokyo Drift of this franchise where it just doesn't belong.
He was a little bit calling back to the haircut for some reason.
Yeah, maybe that was it. The only tie into 2. I like the longer hair.
But none of the spinny jump kicks. What do you call the kick where you use both the feet? Drop kick?
I think it's like a windmill kick because it makes the hair flip or something. But the callbacks were specifically intended to be absolutely fan service. It wasn't trying to pad the runtime. This thing was almost 3 frickin' hours. I think it was 2:49. So all the callbacks, not just the callbacks, but the actual flashbacks were designed to bring us into this universe where we feel justified in rewatching all the Mission Impossibles. There was nothing like, oh, what was that from? I remember all of it, intended to make us happy and not kind of a bummer. You know what they didn't flash back from the previous films that I think would have been really effective to bring back in The Final Reckoning?
Ilsa Faust?
Ilsa Faust. I mean, kind of a bummer that they tried to do a thing that was meant not to be a bummer and it ended up being a bummer. Did you note that between the 3 of them, Grace, Benji, and Ethan comprised the total Indiana Jones uniform?
No, tell me.
They didn't have the whip. Maybe Gabriel was whip smart or Ethan was whip smart. But Ethan had the jacket, the beat up leather jacket. Benji had the hat and Grace had the button down khaki shirt. And they're all in frame and all together they make up Indiana Jones without ever actually referencing Indiana Jones.
I don't think that was intentional. Although I wouldn't put it past Christopher McQuarrie, who was juggling a lot with The Final Reckoning.
It's a lot.
It was a lot. And perhaps he, you know, it was self-serving and self-congratulatory. And he may have put too much emphasis on tying up all the loose ends, accepting Ilsa Faust's storyline. So I kind of don't blame him.
I was practically screaming, why wouldn't he put the poison pill into the Podkova in spite of the flames when he's still in the frickin' plane? It was better to do it with a flaming parachute.
I have no idea.
He pulls it out. He's going to put it in. He thinks about it. He's going to put it in again. And then he puts it back in his jacket. And it's because we needed the stakes of the parachute jump that we had done before, but it needed to be on fire while he was doing another stuff. We talked in Dead Reckoning about them doing multiple things at one time as a narrative device in terms of driving up the tension where things are happening concurrently. So it's the cabin shootout and the naked knife fight with the guy on the submarine who's trying to stop him. And then there was the biplane with Gabriel and the server room with Benji with the pneumothorax. And I guess also in conjunction with that one, we had the president's dilemma. But he has to do things, multiple things, to ratchet it up all at once. Not only is he diving in real water, but he's diving on a spinning gimbal with frickin' giant torpedoes falling all over the place, and he's butt naked, or he has to be, he has to take off the frickin' pack because it gets caught.
Does he, though? Does he have to take off all the stuff? I get the pack, right? Because you have to fit through the torpedo silo or whatever. But when he takes off the mask, thousands of feet, fathoms under the water, I was like, what is he doing? When you talked about screaming, that's when I was screaming in my head. What is he doing?
Well, we had to be able to suspend disbelief because I personally think that at the bottom of the ocean, when he breached that hatch into a pressurized air-filled cavity, I thought that thing was going to implode like the Titan submersible. I thought at the very least, when he cracked that hatch, it was going to blow him sky high off of that freaking submarine. Fine. We're getting inside. Fine. That thing drags him down another like 80,000 leagues. It was crazy, but fine. He's Ethan Hunt. There wasn't a lot of Tom Cruise nudity in Fallout.
Or in Maverick.
He's in his 60s for Final Reckoning, and he's naked a lot of the time because he looks great. And he has that entire conversation in the shower. How warm do you need to be to have that entire dialogue while in the shower with the captain of the submarine or whatever?
I think was he like imprisoned in the shower? Why couldn't he move out of the water?
He was under the water because, they'd taken him down there and tased him, and they needed to warm him up, get his body temperature up. But they were also going to be like, hey, we saved you, but what are you doing here? We need to know. No, you can't lean forward. No, okay, you can hand him that St. Christopher's medallion or whatever. I'm talking about suspension of disbelief throughout that allowed him to do things to keep the story moving forward and to do awesome stunts. That shows how buff he is at 60, and I kind of have to appreciate that. When it comes to Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, I have to, for all my misgivings or whatever, I think that they did the stunts correctly in this one, where as fantastic as they were, they kind of missed the point for the past couple of movies. It pissed me off that Ilsa Faust didn't return. I'll never forgive them. But Michael Montoya said it best about these movies. But he said it about Star Wars, which was also kind of a bloated franchise. He said, at least now I don't have to think about Mission Impossible in this case for a long time. We're done. Is it done? I don't know. Is it done? No, because they can all wander off in Trafalgar Square, and they all probably have their iPhone 16 Pros, and they'll get another call from Ethan somewhere down the line. His relationship with Grace is ambiguous. She turns and walks away. They don't walk away arm in arm. Maybe they have a real relationship, or maybe not. Maybe she's just another agent that he can call upon for Mission Impossible 9, A New Beginning. Yeah, exactly.
And your Final Reckoning is?
I didn't love it as much as I did Dead Reckoning. I'm going to give it an all right because they really went for it as they always did. I was entertained. I thought the stunts were great. The movie looked great, effective tension. And I think that their hard work paid off in the movie making department. But on paper, they could have tightened things up a bit. Could have cut 16 ancillary characters, brought back Ilsa Faust. Solid, all right.
When someone gains entry to the Guinness Book of World Records for the number of most burning parachute jumps and the longest running movie character appearance, I think that Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning are just review proof. It is in a category of its own. And so, therefore, sure, it's a good, but it's also just Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And I will also take some relief in being able to turn my attention elsewhere because I've invested a whole lot of time in Tom Cruise. So that's our discussion on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, available in theaters. Thank you for listening. 818-835-0473 or whatevermovies@gmail.com is how you get in touch with us to let us know what you thought about this review. Let us know if you have movies that you'd like for us to cover, or to just get in contact in general because we love to hear from you. So thanks for listening again, and we'll see you next time.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast. I'm Iris, host of Or Whatever Movies and the forthcoming Powers of Darkness podcast. For the better part of a decade, we've been unraveling a literary mystery that begins with a strange version of Dracula. Yes, that Dracula. It's a different story, imbued with a potentially insidious agenda. What we've already found so far reshapes what we thought we knew, but the investigation isn't over. Support our efforts to finish what we've started and bring the full story to light. Go now to Kickstarter.com and search up Powers of Darkness to learn more. Coming soon on Electricast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Electricast. Electricast.